women are flocking to podcasters.
Yes, which is why we decided to become podcasters.
How many BJs? No, never. You know what? Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Treason Space. I'm Nate. This is Jason, and this week we watched the 2014 horror suspense comedy Tusk.
We absolutely watched this movie. It's a Kevin Smith movie. Anybody who watches our show knows that he is the Kevin Smith fan, and he's been telling me about Kevin Smith for a while, and I've now watched all his movies. So this is the second time I've seen this movie.
Yeah, I think this is probably my fourth time maybe watching this movie. It's definitely not one of my more favorite Kevin Smith movies I've learned.
Well, he's not really. I mean, it's as I said, it's a suspense horror.
It's no Red State,
right? And it says comedy. I'm not sure what the comedy was. I guess the beginning part was kind of funny, but I still think we have comedy in a horror movie. It'd be a horror movie. He had a thought. Kevin Smith had a thought about a horror movie, and he made it.
Pretty much. It was a movie that was brought to you by a podcast, which they make sure to reference that, so that way you could go or try to go back and find that particular episode and watch that episode or listen to that episode of Smodcast. But for those at home that are wondering, hey, Nate and Jay, what are you talking about? What is this movie Tusk all about? Well, here it is. A U.S. podcaster ventures into Canadian wilderness to interview an old man who has had an extraordinary past, and the American learns the man has a dark secret involving a walrus.
And as bad as that sounds, like, did he have did he molest a walrus? Because that's what it sounds like in that definition. He goes to Canada, Winnipeg,
Manitoba.
Well, that's where he ended up going, but he started in
Winnipeg. Yes.
Yeah, and then he went to somewhere else. But
well, yeah, he goes up to Winnipeg to talk to the Kill Bill Kid, who was internet famous for slicing his leg off with a samurai sword.
Right, which was a very graphic, and I mean, it wasn't nearly as funny as the people in the podcast thought it was.
Oh my god, it was not funny at all, and they were over the top laughing.
So it's up in the Great White North. So he finds a letter or something on the bathroom wall that says, "I have an extraordinary life." So he calls the guy up and says, "I want to interview you."
Well, yes, because the kid that he went to go interview had a misfortunate accident with the sword again.
Well, yeah, apparently he killed himself with the sword.
Yes.
That's what he said. And so he gets there and
goes to the bar, gets a drink, and then goes to take the piss.
Right, and he finds that, and he calls the gentleman up. He says there's a lot of different stories. And then there's going to be spoilers. The movie's 10 years old. If you haven't seen it, spoiler alerts, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Do you think his stories are true? The walrus story, I believe, because of the movie. But the rest of the stories he talks about, I guess the only other one was Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah, in Omaha.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. I'm sure that those were all fabricated stories.
He wanted to make sure he had a story to tell someone when he drugs them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it as the fact that it's a movie, so I'm saying those are fabricated stories.
I'm not like the character himself.
Do you think the character himself lived those?
Yeah, that's my question. I don't know. I think he just tells stories because I think the walrus story is true. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so demented. I think the story of him growing up as an orphan, and getting molested by everyone in the 1940s was true.
Yeah.
And the actor that plays the old
Michael Parks.
Dude, friends, let me tell you something. I didn't know Michael Parks really. He introduced me to him when we watched the movie Red State.
Yes.
And I actually watched this before I watched Red State. And he goes, the same guy. What? This man...
He could act.
He's an actor. There's a lot of people out there that are actors, but he, as he just said, he can act. See, there's people that act great, and then there's great actors. He's a great actor. He even did three different characters in this movie alone.
Yeah.
The fake one.
Oh, did you come here about the spider?
Yep, the one with the speech impediment.
The Southern boy speech impediment, the stupid one, and then of course the walrus guy. That's three different characters, and each one was separate.
Yeah, I mean, totally different. I mean, man's
amazing.
He's by far like the best part of this entire movie.
Mm.
Justin Long is the other main lead in this movie, and you know, I don't overly care for his acting in this movie, but I do like his tortured acting, his method.
Okay.
When he is being drugged, or when he is drugged, that
was very realistic, believable the way he was.
Yeah, like all of his reactions,
yes.
The way he was moving, but I think a lot of his just like his choices when he was talking to his friends was just very, like
it was. I mean, when you're talking to his girlfriend, he had flashbacks and that whole girlfriend conversation. Just it's hard to see Justin Long in that type of character, that asshole character. So I don't like that choice there. But and just so you know, and the twist of the movie, Smith isn't much into twists, but what happens in the movie, what's going to happen, you know what's going to happen within the first 30 minutes.
Well, yeah.
So
he's even spoiled the. He goes, essentially, this is the movie.
Yes, that's what I brought up.
Hey, man, this is a movie about a guy that turns another guy into a walrus.
Yes, and he drugs him so he can do that. And I don't know why he decided to do the story about the spider up his leg after he already had his leg chopped off and drugged and tied into the thing. He could have just told him, I mean, he laughed at him. It was so funny. He was laughing at him. He goes, yeah, it was a little spider. I mean, that, oh my God.
I love the part where Justin Long is just Wallace, I think his name is.
Yes, his name is Wallace the Walrus. Wallace.
He is screaming, and then Michael Parks, Howard Howe, yes, goes, ah! And screams right back at him, and they're just like, it pans out, and you just hear them
at
both screaming at each other.
Yeah, he's like, why are you eating dinner? I can't move my arms. That's the morphine. And but when he first started howling, then he growled. He went, I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Also, what's his name from The Sixth Sense? As a grown-up guy,
Haley Joel Osment.
He's in this movie. He's a kind of throwaway character. So was the girlfriend, but someone had to go look for him. Yeah,
he had to have some sort of support because his parents were dead.
Right, but here's my question. Okay, at some point in time, he gets away before he starts turning into a walrus. He gets to his phone and he calls his girlfriend because his girlfriend just called him. And he tries to call her back. Now, first and foremost, I've called someone trying to get hold of them many times. I don't have my phone off the ringer waiting for them to call me back or whatever. My ringer's on. Her ringer was not. The vibration was, why would your ringer not be on?
Right.
Secondly, why not call 911 immediately? I mean, I don't know, Canada. Do you not have 911?
I'm sure it's not 911. Well, I'm sure it's like
211,
711 or 611 or.
I mean, call 911 and say I got this. Of course, he didn't know really where he was, even though he had the address. There's that little section right there, that 15-second moment that made this whole thing possible. If he would have called 911, if she would have had her ringer on instead of off, if his best friend would have had his ringer on instead of off.
Right.
Because, by the way, the best friend and the girlfriend were, I'm assuming they were hooking up. Did it actually show them hooking up?
Fairly certain that
but there was,
there
was something going on there.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the best friend is dating the girlfriend.
She's cute, too.
He's taking her out to the museums. He's listening to her problems. He's all these things, while this other dude is pretty much just going out and getting BJs somehow.
On the road.
Because women are flocking to podcasters.
Yes, which is why we decided to become podcasters.
How many BJs? No, never, you know what? Never mind. Let's not go down that.
Wait, just because of podcasting? None.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh my god, I forgot. I mean, not because of, but during. But
so, the soundtrack to this movie definitely helped bring in the suspense of what was going on. I think the way it interacted with a lot of the scenes was good. I really did enjoy the music for the final fight scene. For some weird reason. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much.
I'm trying to remember the music. I just remember
And then he goes, and then I evolve and I break this flesh. And he breaks out of his own walrus costume.
Because what he has done, he has turned Justin Long into a walrus. He has sewn dead body part skin onto him.
Oh, yeah, you can see pieces
ears,
of face.
eyes.
Yeah, other people's flesh.
It's a walrus, but he has Justin Long in there. I'm not sure what it was all full with. It was disgusting. And then he has his own suit like that, and he's pretending he's a walrus, so he could give Justin Long's walrus a fighting chance to fight him.
Yes.
And he goes, I see your survival instinct has kicked in. And that's when he breaks out of his, so has mine.
Yeah.
And the skin fall. I'm like, that's disgusting.
And he swims with Justin Long naked in that suit, too.
Mm-hmm.
As like, and he pushes his head down into the water, and he's screaming. Now I understand why he was screaming. It was all kinds of Michael Parks wiener in his face. That's why he was screaming. He's like, no! Don't do this to me!
But the thing is, and I think they say it in the podcast, I don't say it in the movie, but at the end, like he said, there's no reversing what he did.
No.
You can't reverse what he did. So, I mean, seriously, let's put this in reality. You have a crazy person.
Yes.
That kills all these people trying to make walruses.
Yep, and has done it before and failed.
Yes, and then successfully does this. That man, okay, he dies, or should die, whatever. He probably should go to prison, but he needs to be studied. He needs to be talked to. He needs to be like, how did you do it?
Right.
What did you do to make this possible? Because that is an amazing feat of bioengineering.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Because he was a walrus.
Yep. Well, and the fact is, he couldn't talk because he cuts his tongue out.
Right.
That's just messed up.
He can't sign language.
Nope. He can't do nothing. Even maybe a series of Morse code and blinks.
Yeah, and the reason that we're even looking for him, we know about it, is because that one character who was in Yoga Hosers, the detective,
Guy Lapointe,
Johnny Depp.
Yes.
And the only reason I realized that is because I watched Yoga Hoser, but I watched Tusk first a long time ago, then Yoga Hosers, and then he told me that that's the same detective in both movies.
Yes.
And then when he came up again, I'm like, this looks like that motherfucker. It is. It hit back in my head that saying, hey, Nate already told me that's the same person.
Yeah, and it does not look at all like Johnny Depp in this movie.
Not
whatsoever.
at all.
Or in Yoga Hosers. Is just... He plays it so very well. I love it. All right, so you listened to us talk about parts of this movie we liked, what parts of this movie we didn't like. So why don't we go ahead and get into what the audience thought of with the 5-star and 1-star or less reviews. The first 5-star review comes from Thomas G. Powerful movie that moved me in ways not seen since The Human Centipede. I've never seen that movie, so
Oh,
I know it's pretty
um.
bad. I've seen the South Park version.
Then you've seen it. It's yeah. That's not even nice to this movie to say. It's like that human centipede is the worst, gross. Anyways, how you moved, Thomas G? How are you moved?
Yeah, what moved you?
Bowel movements. The first 1-star review is from James W. Awful. Just goes to show that if you got the money, they'll let you produce any piece of garbage that pops into your head.
He I think he had crowdfunded some of this movie. It was some weird way, but he only did it for like 10 million or something. Like
well,
really
he just said it on the
budget.
podcast and said, "Okay, let's do it." And he got I don't know how he gets Johnny Depp and this Michael Parks guy to do things because.
Well, Michael Parks has passed on, unfortunately.
Right? Yeah,
but
he's just such a great actor.
I completely agree. The next one comes from Unknown. Amazing thriller. I surprisingly watched it all the way through despite me phobia of mustaches. It is too much of a thriller. The movie is full of suspense and you have no idea how it's going to end until the very end. Shocking and touching, really stirs the mind.
Kevin, we know you wrote that. It's okay. You ain't gotta pop up your own movie. Who's afraid of mustaches? Hang on. I gotta look this up. What's the fear of mustaches called? Pogonophobia. Pogonophobia. So, okay. I don't think it was suspenseful, I'll give you that. Okay, the next two 1-star review. 1-star review or less. Please be warned, this is Brittany R. Please be warned, this is a horrible nightmare-inducing roller coaster that I wish I had gotten off of. I just saw the movie through to my own regret. It is absolutely terrifying. The scenes in which Justin Long's character is walrus grunting are the most traumatizing for me. I would not recommend this to anyone I remotely respect or care about. To this day, I am traumatized. That should be a 5-star review.
There should be a 5. That means that movie was so great that it.
It terrifying. Seriously, it might not be
nothing wrong about that.
No, that just means it did its job. It's supposed to be terrifying and disturbing.
Right.
Dude, that's sorry, Brittany.
I don't know what to tell you, but it sounds like you put yourself in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
The last 5-star review comes from an Unknown. Very strange but entertaining. Twists and turns. Johnny Depp's performance is the rich frosting on the cake. Thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Johnny Depp's performance was excellent. I still think Michael Parks outdid everybody.
I loved how much Johnny Depp's Canadian accent reminds me of talking to like my family up there.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, because they kind of they trail off a little bit.
Well, he was also doing like this French thing, and he didn't do it that much when he was talking to Michael Parks in that one scene. It was like less French than it was.
Right.
Yeah, but still. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, it was it. They trailed off, and then you get back on track, and it's just kind of like this twist and turn thing.
It was. It was. You got 2 great actors in this movie.
Oh yes, for sure.
The last 1-star review comes from Caroline P. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. How Americans see Canadians is a shame. This is written poorly. The jokes are poor and easy. What jokes?
There is a couple jokes.
The story is boring, and the characters are just bad caricatures. Caricatures, which is where you draw something really big, and so that's it.
It's not how Americans see Canadians; it's how the whole world sees Canadians.
I did like that scene in the beginning where he first was going in there.
with the the border enforcement agent.
He's a great value, Zach Vanakis.
Yes.
Yes, he is definitely that. And he goes, there's Canadian do's and Canadian don'ts.
Yeah, there's Canadian don'ts and Canadian do's.
Yes, and that guy was good.
That's a Canadian don't.
Yeah, that was good because I don't like watch hockey, and he's like, that was one of the better scenes.
I agree. The WTF review came from September 20th, 2014. It was a 1-star unknown. So much potential, definitely disturbing. That's really all you need to know.
No.
And if it's definitely disturbing, how is this a 1-star review? If it's disturbing you, then that should be a good thing.
Learn to write better, folks. So much potential. Did not reach the potential. Was disturbing, but not but in a weak way. Say something about why it wasn't disturbing the way it should be.
Exactly.
It was just disturbing. And like I told him, well, he knows this. I've seen it twice. And I said this earlier. I watched the second time. It's a better movie than it was the first time I watched it. I appreciated it a lot more this time than I did the first time I watched it.
I agree. I think this is like my 5th or whatever, but yeah. Now that we've gotten into what you at home thought about this movie, let's go ahead and see what the audience and the critics scored this movie. It may be a bit of a shocker or surprise for a Kevin Smith movie to rank so high amongst the critics and the audience, but the critics got him at a 46% for Tusk, this movie, and the audience, surprisingly, was at 56%. I'm not surprised. I feel like these are on par. How about you?
I think they're very much on par. If they both was at 50, 52, I've been okay with that. I think the critics are like, that's almost 50%, right?
Yeah.
46 close to 50. Is that right? Is that good math? So, I think someone like seeing the artistic part of it, because it was very artistically done.
Oh, definitely.
And it's out of the box thinking.
It's very original for a story that is based on, I think, actual events.
Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning. Based on actually, like the event that there was a podcast about it. That's the event that it was based on. But but it was unique, different. The pitch.
The perspective, the pitch, the
cinematography, which I'm going to go through in the end.
Oh, yeah.
But all that stuff was good. So critics realized it was good acting, good script. It's always a good script. It's freaking Kevin Smith. If Kevin Smith does anything right, it's right in the script.
Yeah,
he does it beautifully, and he got the performers that can make his script come to life. So that part was good. So I can see why it would be 46 for critics. And there's out of every 10 people, 5 of them are Kevin Smith fans. So of course.
Now that we've gotten into that tidbit of what everyone scored this movie, let us get into what we rank this movie. Jason, so I thought this movie was fine. I enjoyed it more previous times I watched it. But it was actually nice to watch it on the larger screen, which is usually not done. Michael Parks is magnificent, carries the movie. I think his performance alone is probably one of my more favorite parts about it. I hate to say this, but to me, I'm only going to give this movie 2 trees.
That's honest of you. But you forgot one part of your review. Would you recommend it?
Actually, I would recommend this movie to my surgeon.
Yeah.
It's a Kevin Smith film, but he can write some pretty fucked up shit. Like, if you haven't seen Red State, check out Red State.
Yoga Hosers.
We did a review on Red State.
It's right up here.
And then check that out if you're curious about that. But Red State and Tusk definitely show his twisted side, and I would love to see a Kevin Smith slasher film.
That he should take over like the Friday the 13th films. Is there a third movie with the detective?
That would be Moose Jaws,
which hasn't come out yet. Okay.
or if that ever gets done.
Okay. So first and foremost, would I recommend to my surgeon? I don't know. I hate saying I don't know because that's kind of like a whip way out of the answer.
It's a cop out.
It's a cop out. Okay, I'm not going to cop out. I would not recommend it to my surgeon, which is going to be weird after I finish this whole conversation. I thought the screenwriting was great. I thought the cinematography was great. I thought the scene with Justin Long and Michael Parks at the beginning when he's telling stories and the angles and the lighting and the way it was all coming around, I thought that is filmmaking that, okay, I would recommend it to my surgeon. That was filmmaking at its finest. The first time I watched this, I had no idea what to expect. I had so many doubts in my head and biases against it because of what I heard about it from him, and not his own fault. He told me exactly what it was. And I was like, I didn't give it a chance. And this time I already knew what I was looking for, and so much better. There was no weak performances. There was no stale performances. It was only like 5 people in the whole movie. It was just excellently done, and I'm going to consider that the body pieces that were cut onto the walrus, one had a nipple. I'm going to assume that was a boobie, so it's going to get half a stump because of that. So I am going to give it 1/2 stump lower than my comrade here at 1 tree, 1 stump.
I think that is essentially on par for what the critics and the audience scored this. We'd love to know what you at home thought of this movie. So if you want to give it a tree, a stump, or what have you, go ahead, drop it in the comments, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed, why the hell not? Subscribe so you know when we get new episodes. It is every Monday here on the YouTubes. Until next time, I've been Nate. This has been Jason. And we'll see you here on Monday.